Having spent over 5 years in the banking sector, one thing I've come to realize is that the difference between the wealthy and the poor is leverage. Okay, knowledge and leverage. And one of the most powerful leverages that the wealthy and the rich people keep using to their advantage is the leverage of debt. Now, debt by itself is not as dangerous as people perceive it to be. I think most of us have had a wrong orientation towards debt. So that what there are three reactions when people hear debt. The first reaction is that people are afraid. I don't want to owe anybody. I don't want to owe the bank. I want to be independent. They assume that being free of debt is some form of financial dependence. The second reaction is the people that are excited because they use debt to meet needs. And then you have the strategic people that use debt to make strategic decisions and use debt to acquire strategic assets that generate revenue. Let me give you a clear example. Whether you like debt or not, the wealthy are going to take leverage, are going to use that leverage for their own advantage. And most of the time, you will be part of that leverage because, you work hard, you save, then you go and put it at the bank for the bank to keep it. Now, you need to understand that in law, the relationship you have with the bank is a debtor-creditor kind of relationship. It means that when you put your money at the bank, you become a creditor, the bank becomes a debtor, and the bank can do whatever they want to do with the money. In law, the only thing is that at the point of requesting your money, they have to refund it back to you. But during that period where you deposit it and you take it, the bank can use the money to do whatever they want. And one of the things the bank keep doing with your money is that they give it out as loans. And who goes for those loans? Businessmen. They use the money that you have got it and other people have brought to the bank. They come and take it. Then they go and get assets like real estate. They go and get properties, they go and do contracts, they go and do businesses that would generate revenue for them, and out of that revenue they pay down the loan, they pay off the loan, they acquire the full ownership of the asset, and they constantly generate revenue for them. And you think that just because you save your 500 cedis, 1,000 cedis every month and you don't owe anybody, you're financially independent, and that is wrong. Debt is not something to be afraid of. It's something that you need to understand and use to your advantage. Of course, not every debt is essential. There are two types of people or two types of borrowers. You have the egoistic borrower. This is somebody that borrows to meet a sociological or psychological need, right, or an emotional need. Let me give you a clear example. You have Kofi. Kofi works at a company. His monthly salary is 3,000 Ghana cedis. Usually Kofi spends about 2,000 to 2,500 Ghana cedis within a month. He's able to save 500 cedis most of the time. Kofi goes to his old school reunion and realizes that all his friends are using cards, right? Kofi feels pressured. He feels like he's delaying. So what does he do? He goes to the bank, requests for a loan of 80,000 Ghana cedis to buy a car, and which he will pay 1,500 cedis every month for the next 5 or 7 years. Now, Kofi gets the 80,000 Ghana cedis and uses it to go and buy a car. Now, a car is not an asset. You could call it an asset, but it's a depreciating asset. It does not generate any form of revenue. It's a liability, actually, because it's going to incur expenses. Now, every month, the 3,000 Ghana cedis that Kofi was getting, that was actually he was managing. Now 1,500 cedis is gone. You have to understand. So he's only left with 1,500 Ghana cedis plus additional expenses like fuel and maintenance. So you realize that Kofi now has a car. He looks like he's doing well, but every day he's borrowing 200 cedis from people in the office, 100 cedis from people here. Why? Because he used the debt to go and acquire a liability, something that will not generate any revenue. And then now he has to feed the debt himself, and he's constrained, and he will continue to be constrained, and he will become a slave to the bank for that period. And then wait, he also become a slave at his workplace. He can't leave the workplace. Why? Because he needs that monthly salary to be able to cater for that debt. Now, Kofi is not a strategic borrower. Then you have Kwame. Kwame is a strategic borrower. Kwame takes the same 80,000 Ghana cedis, okay, and let's say Kwame uses it to buy, instead of buying a car for himself, Kwame doesn't allow the pressure to compel him to buy a car. He takes the 80,000 Ghana cedis, buy 4 motorcycles or 5 motorbikes, right? Give it to different people to ride, and every week each person brings him 500 Ghana cedis. It means that every week Kwame gets 2,000 Ghana cedis from the bikers. In a month, Kwame gets 8,000 Ghana cedis. Kwame is supposed to pay 1,005 Ghana cedis every month for the loan. If Kwame decides to pay 4,000 repayment of the loan every month and still keep 4,000, Kwame still sustains his salary. He's getting more money from the bikers, and then he's paying off the loan, not from his own funds. Kwame is a strategic borrower. So the problem is that people take loans to go and rent an apartment, buy iPhone, buy a fancy car to drive. You know, one of the signs of financial maturity is delayed gratification. The fact that you can afford a Benz does not mean you go and buy it. The fact that you can afford to change your car does not mean you go and change it. The wealthy does not think that way. When you read Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, the underlying principle is that before a wealthy man or a rich person goes to buy something, they establish a revenue that will cater for that. So for example, if I want to buy, even if I wanted to buy a car, right, and I wanted to take a loan to buy a car, what I'd do is that the money that I have, I would set up a business that will bring me revenue. So for example, I could set up a barbering shop, I could set up an electrical shop, I could set up some shop that, or I could buy a motorbike for somebody. You have to establish a revenue, a source of revenue that will feed the repayment of the loan, so that you don't have to constrain yourself. Every loan that you have to constrain yourself to pay is a bad debt. The rich borrow against a definite repayment source. Whether it's, so the people that take money to go, don't think that the people that do real estate, they use their own money to do it. They don't use their own money to do it. Nobody's going to take $50 million of their own money to go and build a huge property in East Legon. Nobody's going to do that. Even if they have the money, they go for loans against, so they use their money as cash collateral, take loans and go and they will take risk with your money. And so the wealthy keeps getting rich because they use that loan to acquire income generating assets, whilst the poor people use the money to go and incur expense. So they used to go and pay rent, used to go and pay school fees, used to go and buy an iPhone, something that will not generate any revenue. Debt is not a bad thing. It depends on how you use it. It depends on how you use it. You must establish a definite repayment source for every debt that you have, so that you don't have to constrain yourself from the little that you're getting. Otherwise, you become a slave, and that's what the Bible says, that he who borrows is a slave. It's not necessarily, but the philosophy behind your borrowing. Are you borrowing just to meet up with expectation? Why would you go and borrow to buy a car and then you have to repay from your salary? It means that your monthly revenue goes down plus expenses, and you don't have any other revenue that will fill that pool. That is definitely not a strategic debt. That's a bad debt. And the moment your job lays you off, you're dumped. And even if your job doesn't lay you off, you realize that in the course of the month, you're always constrained, because the money you are getting from your salary is reduced because the bank has taken a portion of it. Now you have more expenses, which is petrol and fuel and other things. How do you cater for that? So debt itself is not bad. That's one of the leverages. There are a lot of leverages. I think with subsequent videos, I'll probably touch on them. Debt is a good thing if you understand it. Make sure that every debt that you use brings a revenue that has a spread, a positive spread over the repayment settling, over the repayment amount, and you will be fine. Thank you for watching the video. Don't forget to like and share.